Now, since the 4th of February this year, residents in Lagos have reported more than usual road traffic driven by fuel scarcity. The lack of fuel has generated long queues at filling stations across Lagos and other cities, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Now, according to a report, the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority published earlier this month, the supply of fuel depleted after authorities detected methanol levels higher than the national specifications of 2 to 3% in recently imported gasoline. Now, 100 million litres of the contaminated fuel were imported and distributed in the last week of January this year. We will focus on the impact and implications of the ongoing fuel scarcity on the nation's economy. Welcome to Business Insight in Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. Now, Nigeria's agricultural sector records growth of 3.58% in the fourth quarter of 2021. Now, fuel scarcity and the federal government approval of 1.17 trillion naira for railway maintenance rounded off the business week in Nigeria. Here are the highlights.
Nigeria's agricultural sector grew by 3.58% year-on-year in the fourth quarter of 2021, an increase of 2.36% points from the preceding quarter, which recorded a growth rate of 1.22%. The sector contributed 26.84% to the overall GDP in real terms in the fourth quarter of 2021, lower than the contribution in the fourth quarter of 2020 and lower than the third quarter of 2021, which stood at 26.95% and 29.94% respectively. This was disclosed in the fourth quarter of 2021 GDP report released by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, on Thursday. Nigeria's gross domestic products GDP grew by 3.98% year-on-year in real terms in the fourth quarter of 2021, indicating a sustained positive growth for the fifth quarter since the recession witnessed in 2020. This is according to the recently released GDP report by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited (NNPC) says it has commenced the distribution of 1 billion litres of safe premium motor spirit (PMS) to fuel stations across the country. This was made known by Group Executive Director Downstream NNPC, Mr. Adetunji Adeyemi, on Tuesday in Abuja during a press briefing. The federal government has approved 1.17 trillion naira for the procurement of maintenance material for the Ibadan-Kano standard gauge and Port Harcourt-Maiduguri narrow gauge rail lines. The amount also includes printing contracts by the National Examination Council for the 2022 Senior School Certificate Examination. The Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, and his counterparts in the Ministry of Education, Adamu, revealed this to State House correspondents on Wednesday, shortly after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting.
Government should do something to this fuel scarcity because it cannot continue like this. Because people will suffer for it. People are suffering for it.
Things are bad because of that scarcity of fuel. People cannot move to one another to do their own business. So, if they can do something about it.
I traveled to Mercy on Saturday. There is no NNPC filling station sell fuel from Ikodu to Ekiti. Our leader, they know what is where Nigeria is today. We are sleeping with fear. We are running on fear. We dey filling station on fear. This is not, it's not supposed to be like that.
By now, we should be talking about building and restoring our infrastructures. The major one there is the refinery. So if we want to see any sincere government, they have to put our refineries back to workable position. This is unforgiving for all the leaders of Nigeria. We're talking about a nation over 200 million without a refinery. We probably have to go back to the likes of Qatar, to the likes of Dubai, nations that are on their knees in the early 70s, late 70s, even early 80s, begging us.
Drivers find it harder to get petrol, and as a result, bus fares are higher. And also at home, to get petrol for your generator is a bit harder now and more expensive. If we do not import petrol, if we make our petrol, there will probably be better ways of ensuring the quality is good.
I hope the people here will listen, the people who distribute the fuel, and at least they'll do the needful. We don't have to make life difficult for each other. I think they can do better.
That was the voice of the people there lamenting the scarcity of fuel in the country. Now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited has assured Nigerians that the company had placed significant orders of over 2.1 billion litres of methanol-free petroleum to ensure that the long queues of petroleum end in a few days. The NNPC boss, Mele Kyari, gave the assurance while briefing House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum, Downstream. Now, this was disclosed in a statement by Garbadin Mohammed, the Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division of the NNPC Limited. Now, Professor Chris Imumolen is the founder, Unique Foundation, the president of JPTS. He is involved in onshore, offshore oil and gas, and he's the Vice Chancellor, Global Wealth University, and the presidential aspirant. He joins us now to discuss the impact of the fuel scarcity in Nigeria. Good evening to you, Professor Imumolen. Many thanks for joining us on Business Insights and Plus TV Africa.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, this issue of fuel scarcity is one that leaves so much to be desired. For about 2 weeks now, Nigerians across Lagos, Abuja, and some other cities have been lamenting the impact of the scourge. What exactly do we really have on our hands right now?
Okay, I think we are going to start by looking at why and how did we get to where we are. You know, we started by knowing that there is no refinery in the country that is functional. We started by understanding that as a country, we have about 4 refineries that are supposed to be functional, but none of them is functional. And again, let's look at the supply chain for fuel system into the country. We are in a country whereby we bring in petroleum from other countries. For example, this particular petroleum we talked about, the adulterated petroleum, was said to be imported from Belgium. And you begin to ask a very major question, that how will a product that is not tested get into the country, you know? Because I, as a professional in this industry, know that before a product is brought into the country, there is something called the Q&Q test, where the viscose test is done, the coloration test is done, and the quality test is done. This by itself should ascertain to tell us if the kind of fuel we are importing has the normal octane rating and the normal quality that it should have. But this situation will tell us that there is a lot of lacuna in the monitoring and evaluation system for supplying and monitoring the kind of fuel that comes into the country. I know the NNPC has debunked to say, methanol testing is not part of the test that is carried out before importing fuel. But I want to disagree with that, because by normal sense, you understand that the color of the petrol we have been distributed, which has to a large extent has caused huge collateral damage to vehicles. As in between last week and this week, we've had a lot of automobile damage. Vehicles will be having serious combustion problem. There will be cracking of engines and knocking of engines. Who is going to pay for that? So it's a major issue that we have at hand. One, the implementation of monitoring to make sure that the kind of fuels that comes into the Nigerian system, which even to a large extent is a security issue. If we could have millions of liters of fuel being transported into Nigeria from Belgium into the shores of Nigeria, these are products that should have been vetted, monitored before it gets into the depot, down to the terminal point, before it gets to the end user, and nothing is being done. So it means that system needs to be rechecked. And it will interest you to know that it is not just about the oil and gas industry alone. This lackadaisical attitude of monitoring agency to ensure that proper product gets to the people, it's also available in other industry like the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, in almost every industries that is involved in importing products into Nigeria. So that industry needs to be checked. Now, what is the impact of having a substandard product in the Nigerian context? A substandard product, number one, is a security issue. This calls for a security emergency. If we could have millions of liters of fuel all across Nigeria, that goes to show us that we have problem with our security infrastructure. It's a security emergency because every home uses fuel. One, we do not have power. Nigerians power their generator from the fuel that we are talking about. And again, look at automobile. We have millions of automobile out there. We have so many. And if you let me say this about even other products beyond PMS, premium motor spirit, like the DPK or the AGO, which is automobile gasoline oil. Yes, there is adulteration in that industry. What is the solution to this? One, we need to get our refinery we need to get them working. How do we have Element Petrochemical Refinery, we have the Warri Refinery, we have the Kaduna Refinery, and none of this refinery is working. Is that not so? That is not what a country should do. So the best way to avert and to correct this is to ensure that the government by itself takes fuel supplies as a serious business. It shouldn't be business as usual. Because, like I said, poses national security threat. Number two, it increases hardship on the people. The Nigerian population is currently facing a lot of enormous hardship. Now having to add to this, we talk about collateral damages from engines that will be destroyed by people who are trying to maintain their vehicles. I can tell you for the past weeks, I'm trying to repeat this again, that many vehicle engines would be having mechanical issues, and that would mean that Nigerians need to now cough out extra money from the little they are earning to solve this. It's going to increase hardship. All right. Thirdly, transportation, and this, we all know that when transportation cost increases, it also
snowballs to other aspects of the economy. Yes. But let's talk about still on the adulterated petroleum that we have in Nigeria. In as much as the NNPC has come out to say that by next week or so, Nigerians should feel some sort of relief. But we also heard about plans to blend this adulterated fuel. You are, in the know. You are part of the downstream distribution of petroleum product. What exactly are the feelers that we are getting? What are marketers doing in that particular line to know that whatever they are getting to their own stations are actually the right fuel?
Yeah, I know what marketers would be doing now is to filter off the gasoline, because the density of gasoline as compared to PMS is different. So there is, if you look at the image you are showing right there, you see that the gasoline actually settled under. So what they will be doing now is just to pump away the gasoline. And if you go to a lot of depot out there, that is what, there's a huge pumping away of gasoline. And we cannot blame the country that actually supplies this, because most times those who go out to purchase this product specify what they need. They saw it. And if I need to go deep to explaining how this thing gets into Nigeria, you'll be so saddened, you'll be so sad to know what Nigerians and many organizations and even government do to make money. It is wrong. So, like, what will be happening now? Look at what, for example, the image you're showing. So it's just going to be sedimentation process. where the petrol will sieve off and the one that settles under will be taken off. That is what will be happening. And again, that does not assure that you are getting the best of the petroleum products. Yes, vehicles engines are going to knock because the octane rating for that particular product is below the standard, and that is what we'll be seeing coming weeks.
So, but then again, the impact on the marketers themselves will be much, because at the end of the day, if they have to dispose of all of this adulterated fuel, who would bear the cost as it is?
No, let me say, because the impact, the importer will bear the cost, because, and again, it might not even be a major cost. We have this notion that even in the pharmaceutical industry, if you had ever bought a drug in other West African country like paracetamol, you will discover that the paracetamol you get from countries like Benin Republic, Ghana, Togo is more what's it called, efficacious, or it has more efficacy than that of Nigeria, because we know that some marketers in Nigeria will go to China and India and say, oh, produce this for me, this standard, and they reduces the cost. That is what we believe has been done with this product. Marketers will go to and say, oh, mix it up with methylene. So a product that is supposed to be gotten for a higher price will be gotten cheaper. So maybe the people that will actually lose this in this game might not actually be the NNPC or the major marketer who brought this. It might be the station owner who bought this product from the major marketers, because usually major marketers will supply the depot and you now buy in trucks from them. So they might be, the losers might just be, the end users might be we the end users, you the end users, or the filling stations operators who had already bought this product, and they will be sieving off methanol from the PMS. Might even cause them to lose half of the, maybe for a truck which is 45,000 liters, half of that per every liter. That is huge. And again, that would also cause economic hardship to, for example, filling station owner, most of them who might be operating on loan, who might collect these products on loan. And you can look at this. Many of them have children. They might not be able to pay school. They need to service a loan. I know this particular strike that we have seen from the error that have been observed would really affect so many sectors of the economy.
All right, Professor Imumolen, all of this issue of scarcity and shortage, or even panic buying, all started when the federal government announced plans to remove, subsidy, of fuel in the country. In as much as the federal government has come out to say that it will not be doing that until maybe next year. What do we really have in our hands as regards this issue of fuel subsidy? Is it something that we eventually, or some evil that we eventually just have to face?
Yeah, one, we have the crude oil. Nigeria is blessed with crude oil, and the kind of crude oil we have is one that has one of the highest grade. We have the Akwa Ibom, we have the Escravot, we have the different type of crude oil in Nigeria that is very okay. What I believe the government should be looking at is ensuring that the refinery are working. Because if we can refine, now, Nigeria is trying to believe that, Dangote refinery is going to come up, then crude oil will be refined privately. Fine. But what should we do? We need to ensure that if we spend so much of money trying to overhaul our refinery, if our refinery works and we're able to refine our crude oil optimally, believe me, we will be dropping the cost of production of PMS, AGO, DPK, and other derivatives from crude oil. And in that way, we might not necessarily need to subsidize products and PMS products, because we have to subsidize because we are buying from other refineries, and it costs so much to have that done. So if this can be done, I think government should be looking more at ensuring that our refinery works than thinking of removal of subsidy and shooting the price of PMS up. The hardship currently is massive. We have security challenge. ASU is on strike. We have a lot of problems at heart. And adding this to it, I don't know how Nigerians are going to survive.
On a final note now, Professor Imumolen, so the NNPC has come out to say today that over time that in the next couple of days, Nigerians are going to see some sort of relief as they have announced plans to pumping more fuel into the economy. Is it something to go by? Should Nigerians be hopeful? Is there anything that suggests that it might not happen?
Yes. Normally we are supposed to have a reserve for a national reserve. That is the job of the NNPC, to ensure that there is always reserve to meet up with shortage of supply. You can see that what has happened last week and this week shows that our reserve for PMS and other petroleum products is depleted. We don't have, because if truly there is reserve, there shouldn't be shortage just because 4 marketers, as they claim, brought in adulterated products. The other marketers, not apart from the 4 who are also, but I think what the NNPC is just waiting for is to clear more products and have more product supply. Not that there's a reserve somewhere, which will, because if there's a reserve, in 2 or 3 days, trucks should be out there, the pipeline should pump fuel to different depots, and this shortage will become. We see this the fuel scarcity becoming tense in Lagos, becoming tense in Abuja, and it's creeping into other parts of Nigeria day by day. We hope to see maybe if by next week, as they have announced, that there will be relief in the scarcity. But like I've said, the relief, I believe, is coming from clearing more of the cargo waiting to clear, not from the reserve.
All right, we'll just follow that development and see how that goes, and hopefully Nigerians should heave some sigh of relief. We must say a very big thank you to you, Professor Chris Imumolen, for your time on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And that's the size of the show. I am Justin Akademi. See you again next time. Bye for now.